Excellent. Was the meeting with AJ about? Here he is.
Oh, that was just a product. That was just product stuff. The U.S. sales team is trying to figure out how to be sales superstars by getting better performing products. So they were presenting like a laundry list of issues, so to speak. And, you know, it's the never ending battle between sales and product around, you know, we're not performing because type of conversation.
Yeah. The price or the features or it doesn't work.
That's right.
Yep.
Very granular pricing related, not pricing, feature function related lists.
Good times.
Yeah. Who's all on the call?
Hey guys, I'm on.
Oh, hey Matt.
That's all that matters, right?
That's right.
No, exactly.
So
yeah, it's been a tough day. This isn't going to be a sunshine and roses probably call. Just
good.
warning you ahead of time.
Well, we sent that note. So we have our team on the call. Our expectations are this is going to be an unpleasant conversation. I'll let you take it where you want to, and then I'll frame whatever we need to, and level set. I think the general theme is we have to do a much better job of creating materials for other groups to digest and absorb what we're doing and what progress we're making. That would be the theme. Is that fair, or would you say it differently?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Okay, so lay into us.
And Matt, you can chime in too, but I'll start. So let's start from high to low. So I think just making a very bold statement here. We're having good conversations and we're getting momentum, but I'm getting my ass kicked a bit, you know, in some of the discussions because I don't have a way to communicate the work we're doing in a concise and simplified way, you know, and it sucks because it's like we're doing so much work, right? And I'm frustrated because it's going really well and I'm getting traction, we're getting traction, you know, but there's too many moving parts and pieces so that when I go to try to explain it, you know, it's for somebody, let's just say that's not involved in the work we're doing, like they don't have a fucking clue. They don't get it. It's very hard to like communicate. Like we get it. And so I'm asking you guys to like step outside of the like box that we're all in because we're in the trenches together and we see the light. But like I can't anymore function without that because I'm, you know, as you guys know, putting my neck out massively, which I am proud and happy to do on a daily basis here. And I feel so much passion and confidence in what we're doing. But at the same time, the further down the road we go, the more and more that goes up the chain and it goes broader. And I don't want, you know, to set myself up for a shit show later on because I can't explain it. And then somebody feels like they're getting their fucking toes stepped on, which is ridiculous, but this is the land of territorial, siloed, you know, functional behavior here, dysfunctional behavior, I should say. And so I just need help, man. Like, how do we do that? Like, how do we get to a place where I can feel confident that there's a centered story around the work that we're doing plus what we've accomplished, right? So perfect example, we're on the call today, which I don't think it would have mattered if I had that in that particular call with Julianne, but like, you know, because I didn't have like a vision for all of what I just explained, this woman literally thought we were talking about marketing and didn't listen to a single thing I said for 30 minutes.
Not a thing.
And it was
I'll
just,
back you up. Not a thing. She was
no,
not.
and it's,
She came in with slides that are marketing oriented, and it's been we've been messaging this. So this is more for clarity, who's not on the call, but if we're recording it, talking about branding, this is exactly the challenge. It's he said, she said. You're not talking about branding. You are talking about branding. We are talking about messaging. You're not talking about messaging. We're not making it clear what we mean by what we're talking about.
right.
Is that fair?
Well, kind of. I
Okay,
mean,
go on.
so I felt like, and this is an important conversation, right? Because this is somebody we want to be collaborative with who clearly isn't understanding anything we're doing. And she's not stupid. Like, she's hired for a reason, right? And I think, look, this is somebody who wants to make her mark and she wants to show her value like everybody else, but, it doesn't seem to understand the work. And so what I was trying to tell her was, and this wasn't coming out right because I didn't have what I needed, but what I was trying to tell her was, this isn't marketing. Like, yes, of course, messaging is part of it, but like, this is strategy. Like, we are building a fucking prototype model for how we need to go sell, and messaging is a part of that. But our job in this project is not to rebrand IQVIA. Like, you can go ahead and do that, right? But if it influences it, fantastic. And that's all part of the collaboration so that we're all moving forward at the same pace. But there was nothing I had or have that I could articulate that to her. So I was just speaking to someone who wasn't listening to me, and I didn't have anything to show, right? So I have slides, Scott, that you built. Thank you. They're awesome, and they have helped in many conversations, right? But I think we're at the point now where I need you guys to help me be able to present. Like, we live in slides in IQVIA. Everybody talks with slides, not conversation. So it's just the way it is. I can't change that. So I need to be able to demonstrate something, right? And it doesn't need to be a project plan. It just needs to be a vision statement that's visual that I can speak to and help someone understand the dynamic of our engagement so that I don't have to deal with what I had to deal with today, which was awful. Particularly because she's a peer of mine, and the last thing I need is her trying to derail something that we're doing because she feels like we're threatening her territory, which is exactly how I left that conversation today, feeling that's how she was feeling. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, how did this go down this road? Like, I got excited talking to her, and then all of a sudden it flipped into this conversation around this shit. So I just, that's my 2 cents. And Matt, you're involved in this too. Like, what are your thoughts?
So a couple things, I think the biggest thing that would be helpful for us, and to your point, Jen, is like, how do we bring this all up a level so that the process or what we're doing, our approach is just clear. I get that there's like a lot of complexity that sits underneath of it, and there's a lot of like diligence work we're doing to bring this all together. But we have so many people in like evolving roles here. Like, Tal's gone, Kevin's in, AJ's picking up this new role, Julianne's new. Everyone's like coming in hot and heavy, trying to figure out like how they right the ship from their own particular view. And, just by nature of the circumstance, like, everyone just needs like quickly digestible information. So we have like a ton of really good material. I think we're just not doing a great job of, hey, give me that elevator pitch of what we're doing. And then following up on that too is, I'm wondering if there's a way that we can then make that actionable. So, hey, Julianne, this is what we're doing. This is where the process is. And this is where we see like the integration for you, or this is where we see ourselves working in like a combined function together to get this right. I feel like Scott Rose probably has like the best view of like, yes, I see where this is all coming together and where this is critical for me. Obviously that makes sense. He's sales. It's going to be heavily driven to his end. but sometimes even with like Susan Hill, I wonder if like she knows like not necessarily the so what of it, but like the what do you actually need me to do and drive in this process. So I think that's like a big opportunity area we can work on to bring this all to life. And then, even just from like an information sharing perspective, Jen and I are creating so much stuff on the fly. I know you, Scott, and the whole team are like pulling information together. I would love if there's a way we can just get this all together in one sort of site so we can see where everything is and where all these moving pieces are flowing. Because if we know where everything is, it can help us, just organically start to think through some of these things a lot more quicker than just reconnecting on some of these scheduled calls we have going on. And then like the last thing, I'm just thinking through is, we had some original goals up front. Like I know we pivoted a little bit. We had this original kind of 10 account plan. I get that we have to build out Eli to really demonstrate it first. But if there's a way in terms of showing this high level view and this high level approach we're going for, like what does that mean in terms of like actual planning and what this whole thing is going to look like? I know that we don't want to create a whole process map, but I think just having some of that evolution as to where we are in the journey and where we're going is going to be helpful for some of these people like the Juliannes of the world and the Kevins to really continue, specifically with Kevin, continue the excitement we have so they can see the full journey. And quite frankly, we're going to have to do something like this for Burned anyway. So it's almost like a good opportunity to really start get cranking on some of this.
So the
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, just because I don't want to forget to say it. And just to as a caveat, I do have a hard stop at 4, but it's a need, right? That maybe we could have done sooner. That I definitely have a need for now, and it's exactly what we're talking about. There's like a base version. And then there's the I have to go sit in front of the president of our division version. Like I am, and I just as an aside have a call with Kevin on Monday at 4:00 to talk about this. And it's my big shot. If I had just what I have now, like I'd have to cobble it together, and Scott probably wouldn't say it, give it enough justice, if you will. So if you guys could help me with that, that would be fantastic. Because here's the thing. What's going to end up happening is another executive is going to ask for a meeting and another one. And, Karina yesterday sent, and Matt, I don't know if I told you this. I think I maybe told Scott, but Karina sent a note to the head of our GAD team in the U.S., VP of sales in the U.S., her peer on the other side of our business, an email saying she wants him to be doing the same thing we're doing.
Oh, I did
So,
not.
Yeah, like we're not really ready yet for that, but
Jen, who's Tim?
it's awesome.
Is that
Huh?
is that the GAD person? Who's Tim?
Yeah. So no, it's not Tim. So his name is Alan Hirschman.
Got it.
And he's the guy, just as a quick aside, that uses the blue sheets. Okay. So he's an old school sales guy, sales leader. He's been here for a while, and I've met him a couple times. And he's definitely like your typical sales leader. Very, very well informed of all the sales methodologies, seen it all, done it all. I guarantee you, if we put something in front of that guy that says, this is how you need to do things differently to continue to be successful, he'll listen. And, it's like, I'm getting opportunities, but like, I don't have what I need to have the conversation where people like get it. It just clicks. And so the train is moving fast here. So I need you guys to like freaking help me, man. Cause I'm feeling a little without. Anyways, I'm done. Scott, over to you, or anyone else if you have feedback.
I have
or
a
questions.
question.
Yeah,
This
what I'd like is I'd like you guys my team to ask questions. I have a lot more access to Jen, and I'm a lot more familiar with these with this situation. So thank you, Brian. Go.
Oh yeah, so it's not Brian's Detangler. I don't know who you're talking about.
Funny. We got 2 minutes.
There's the question of the tactical, and then there's the strategic that you guys are outlining as far as what are we doing, how are we going about it, etc. So there's different categories of the need here, but all of them have to do with communicating what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it works. Is that right? I'm just trying to repeat
Yes.
back. Okay. And
Yeah, because it's not just
different
deliver.
needs.
It's not really the asset. Yeah, different
Mhm.
needs, exactly. Like talking to a sales leader about the project is a different conversation than if I'm talking to the president, right, who has a different kind of lens. And it doesn't have to be vastly different, but a little bit. And it would be awesome to have like, you know, a way that I can pivot. Like if I have to quickly get on the phone with someone and talk about what we're doing, I need to be able to like be like, okay, I'm going to use this one slide because this is like a perfect way to encapsulate it for this guy, and I needed this slide for over here for this guy, and that way I can have agility in internal discussions.
Yeah, and then
go ahead, Brian.
the last one is on this idea that Matt brought up around what we're doing. You don't necessarily need a project plan. I get that, but there's a journey that we're on, and the journey's not clear either. Like you've shown up in a point in time casting vision, but there's not clarity on how we're actually going to get there, it seems. Is that right, Matt?
Yes. I mean, and again, like there's a view from like a salesperson's perspective as to how this all comes together. There's a Kevin view on this, but if even within our inner circle, we sort of crystallized what that view is and what we need to accomplish and where we are. Like, I personally, like, I don't know how far we are in the routes to value. I know it's like a critical component of it, but you can see like how the threads, if people are to pick at it, it kind of gets rolled away a little bit. So this isn't to say, you know, we're not doing everything right. It's just how do we bring the message together better so we can articulate it better? Because quite frankly, like we have a ton of momentum.
Right.
It's just things like this and the lack of ability to clearly and concisely give that elevator pitch to people is hurting us.
It's the momentum that's causing an increase in the anxiety because we don't have some of these materials, because as the momentum increases, the visibility increases, the number of people who are confused or can say I'm left out or you're doing my job or whatever increases, and it increases exponentially every week.
Yeah.
And we're just not paying enough attention to that. And we have
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And it's honestly like a good problem to have, but it's a problem. And we just need to.
And right. And I think that the issue is we have to have a much higher sense of urgency around this because it's a high, but we have to manage our emotions. This is a high quality problem. It's not a triage, oh my God, everything is broken, but it's the next person that we talk to and we show the thing that resonates, and I'm glad Jen brought it up, it's about the slides. What we need are a next batch of slides that are I guess, role specific or track specific. We need slides that show progress. We need slides that show things in flight. We need slides that describe for people what's happening. We don't need a lot of solution slides. We need illuminate what's going on slides. Is that fair, Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're getting caught around, we're definitely getting caught in the vortex. So the way that I saw what was frustrating about the call that we had with Julianne's the CMO, was just send me something. It was literally the same thing that we experienced with Brian. instead of talking about Brian, what he did or didn't do, or whether he was engaging the right way, we could have leaned forward in it and built him tools, because we'd be better off now. So what we have to do is we have to lean forward into this stuff. We have to get much more comfortable being uncomfortable and recognize that our client here, Jen, it's awesome. She's got momentum, but every day it's more momentum. She's having a meeting tomorrow business-wise with Kevin to talk about what our initiative is. Jen, can you fill in more of what AJ told us yesterday or today or whenever the hell we talked to AJ about the business strategy moving forward? I tried to make a video capturing those notes to everybody. I think it would be very valuable if they heard the sense of urgency.
Yeah, real quick too, by the way, I just wanted to make a comment on your last, not just recent comments, but the one before, where everyone's thinking that we're doing their job and all this kind of stuff. So, and this is actually a learning experience for what we're trying to build for our customers, and why this is such a critical asset required for our sales teams to be providing to our customers, because it's a silo problem.
Yep.
Because we have, and just for, adding fun to the mix, we have teams of people that have the same roles that we have sitting in other parts of the organization. And everybody wants a piece of the pie. So we're not just dealing with like trying to convince people that we need to do this. There's other people going to Kevin saying the same goddamn thing. So it's like, how does he know which one's the star, freaking person to pick for the team? Like he doesn't know until he actually feels convinced that that's the right approach. So, and it's not just Kevin, right? Like I've got a central freaking team that mirrors some of the stuff that my team does, breathing down my neck every day. And it's awful and it's exhausting and I hate it. Now I've been able to keep them off my back because I'm showing value and I'm moving things forward. But like at some point the walls start caving in, right? So like this is the siloed crap that we're dealing with. And it's the same for our buyers. Like if somebody is the change agent, well, congratulations, but they're going to have the same problem. So what are you giving them to help them go sell their stuff? Anyway, preaching to the choir here, but yeah, so yesterday, the conversation that really, I think, came to fruition with AJ was started by a conversation he and I had the night before with Kevin, about, the importance of our organization really driving this commercial story. Right. And I guess, Scott, you're trying to take it from a business process perspective. Kevin clearly sees the need and importance for us to be not only doing this as an organization, but how we communicate this to our customer, because he has not seen yet anyone present him the ability to tell the story or have the right sales structure in place to go execute on the story, or how our products all fit together and are delivered effectively to support the story. And there's all of these kind of things that build on top of each other, and it's perfect timing, but it's also stressful because we got to execute on that. So anyway, and Scott, I don't know if that's the direction you're going in, but if you want to add color to that, or Matt, feel free.
Well, yeah, I think the challenge here is for you to say in your own words the environment that you're dealing with. So the way that I would summarize it, what AJ told us is that the things that we're talking about map directly to the next phase that the CEO of the company is looking to go. AJ said, I want that. So they have this big town hall meeting coming up, I think at the end of November. And he said, I'm giving you a pat in two places, right? To Jen, or actually the three of us. He treats us all as just Jen. Matt, Jen, and I are an amalgam there. I'm giving you a pat in two places, basically on the head and on the butt of I need to get, I need to get what you're working on out in front of people. Because, and give space on Kevin's town hall meeting for Jen and Matt. And I lost the date what that was, but that's a huge opportunity for Jen and Matt. It's also massive, massive, massive anxiety, and we need to be more empathetic about what that's like. Think about all the eyeballs there. Think about how big the company is. Think about all the people saying, I've got the answer, I've got the answer, I've got the answer, and none of those have moved the needle. This is the situation. We've talked the talk, now we got to walk the walk.
Yeah, spot on.
So I'm the least of the salespeople here. When you talk about the different, it's almost like you have different audiences within your company that you're trying to get the messaging to. And just like your customers have, business drivers that you're trying to drive to them, there's internal business drivers that you're sort of, it's almost like we have the same way we have an agreement network outside of the organization, we have an agreement network inside the organization we need to solve and navigate.
Yes. I mean, we're trying to evangelize and build advocacy. So we need to be able to quickly portray the vision in the future. We don't need all the nuts and bolts. I feel confident about what we have in the background.
Yep.
I think we just go ahead, Scott, but we need
I'm saying preach on, brother.
all right. Well, can I get an amen? We just need to do a better job of almost just bringing that gospel out and making it clear as day. So people are immediately yes, I get it. I want to learn more, and then boom, we have all that background. We can definitely do that. But the struggle is, for right or wrong, everything here is 100 miles an hour. And these, we just got to be able to quickly convey all of this.
Hey, Matt, this is Architect. Do you have in your mind's eye a vision for what type of shape or format this kind of communication device or supporting pieces looks like? There's obviously diagrams and tailoring that by role. Any kind of perspective or point of view as to is there a consistent framework and then it's tailored by role? Is there a particularly effective concept or format that you think might?
Yeah, I mean, I can give some thought to it. The short answer is nothing readily apparent in terms of, hey, here's how we always communicate structures. Media, like Jen said, everything lives and dies in PowerPoint. So that's where it would live. But in terms of it just kind of whiteboarding it here, the biggest things to get across is here's where we're at today. And today can essentially be 3 months ago. And here's where we're going. What does that mean internally for us? So many of the projects we do here, it's either, hey, here's what we're doing internally, and we don't even really think about the customer, or every now and then, here's what we're trying to do with the customer, and we're not thinking about things we need to do internally on the back end. So how are our two swim lanes working together to say, one, we're completely re-envisioning how we should be going to customer internally, and two, here's how this all pulls together from a customer specific lens. And then maybe subset underneath that, here's sort of the interdependencies that go to that pull it all together. So Julianne, here's how we're playing with marketing. Susan Hill, here's what we're, here's what you're helping to drive in the process. Sales, I think we have that one pretty well lined up. So I don't know what that ultimately looks like, but just top of mind, I think if we had something like that quickly comes together, that's something that, to Jen's point, when she gets pulled into these last minute meetings, that's something that it's almost like a sell sheet, right off the top. It's oh, wow, I get this vision. Okay. And I get there's complexity behind it. I don't need to know all that right now, but I get what you're talking about here.
What I would
Yeah,
suggest,
and
go ahead, Jen,
Sorry.
please.
no, I have one quick addition to that, and I do have to jump, guys, but my addition is I think it's very well in our right to show what's not working,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
And I think, I have earned the right particularly with AJ and starting with Kevin, to say, look, like you're asking me, why you keep getting challenged by the CEO, why we're not growing. This is why, right? This is why we're not growing, and this is what we're doing to frickin' fix it. It's not going to be done tomorrow. It's a process. Like that's the kind of thing that I need, right? And in whatever structure we can make that happen, I'm good with. Like if it's a visual or if it's bullet points, like, and it needs to be blunt, because people just and I'm not suggesting that we're doing this, but like fluff doesn't work here.
yep,
And I think now that we've gotten through the initial phases of getting buy-in to do this, now needs to come the harder conversations around the why are we doing this and what's the next step, and the what are we doing, right? The why and the what.
I know you need to.
So anyway, that's
And I wanted to get confirmation on a few observations from you, from my team.
Yep, sure.
So one thing in terms of answering your question, Dave, my ask of you would be, don't lead with the form factor. Concentrate on just making slides to solve the problem, be bullets or whatever. What I have found that works is we get in and we start making slides, and then they get somehow, whether I do it or Jen does it or Matt does it, somehow they get to the need. But you have to build the slides. I think a huge lesson Jen and I had, Matt, Jen and I spent a whole shit ton of time making slides for a call she had last week. She used 0 of the slides, 0. But there's no way that meeting with Kevin would have gone well to kill the seats if we didn't do the effort to make the slides. It's not the form factor, it's the action of doing the work. Is that fair, Jen?
Yes,
Yeah, totally.
exactly.
The second thing then is we have to be situationally aware. Each slide has a scenario, or set of slides has a scenario. We have to be able to stress test against it and be okay that we're getting that we're taking stuff out. We can't be wedded to our work at all. It's just got to go. And then the third thing would be, we have to get better at the lessons that we're learning. So to Jen's point about what doesn't work, I think a bigger thing that we have to challenge ourselves more is what's working. What I've noticed is where we're getting a lot of resonance is when I stop the inspection of what's wrong and I highlight what's working. But we just don't have any slides for what's working, examples of what's working, tangible, concrete examples
Yes.
of what's working. If we had those, we're going to make everybody really, really happy, particularly people upstream of Jen. I think they're sick and tired of hearing about how much we suck or how much we're losing. Would you agree with that, Jen?
Spot on. I think it's
Yeah.
spot on,
Absolutely.
because that also shows our confidence in what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I gotta jump. Thank you guys. Honestly, really appreciate it. And if there's any help you can give me for Monday, I'd love you even more.
We'll work on that, or I'll work on that for sure.
Honestly, like even
Okay.
in general, as you're pulling this stuff together, like bounce stuff off us. We're in this all. We're all in this together.
Exactly. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Exactly.
And by the way, I
All
really
right, have a great
appreciate
weekend.
you feeling comfortable enough with us to talk like this with us. It's really helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. It's treacherous sometimes, and we're in this together, and we're making massive progress. So this is just a bump or milestone in the road of recalibrating and realizing kind of how we need to continue to propel forward here. So it's a positive thing. So anyway, all right, guys, you
Thank
guys
you.
can stay on if you need. I got to drop.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
We're-
Thank
we're
you
gonna-
all.
We're
Talk
gonna
to you
stay
soon.
on. I'm gonna ask people questions. If-
Okay.
If you can
All
stay
right.
on with us, Matt, that's great, but we're gonna shift over to, what did you guys hear?
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Take care,
I'm gonna-
guys. Bye bye.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drop too, Scott, but thank
right.
you guys. And honestly, like, drop me a line, shoot me a note, anything you need.
Thanks.
All right, have a good weekend, guys. Take care. Bye.
You too.
Bye. All right. Timing wise, this is so amazing. Walter just joined and Jen and Matt just dropped off. So in the spirit of getting better at communicating experiences, who's going to give Walter an update of what we heard?
I will.
Thanks, Dave.
So Walter, we got on the phone with Jen and Matt. Jen is up against some resistance in terms of people because of the success of the elevation of this initiative, fast tracking inside the company to senior levels. It's freaking people out there. And so she's running into meetings where people are like, what's going on? What is this all about? People are feeling left out. There's some, good examples. The CMO was very friendly before, is now sort of like, I want to know where the progress is. And there's just these demands. And so that it all boiled down to, we need communication material to help share the status of where we are and where we're going and the what and the why. So, she has to pivot to different audiences by role too. So she's in a meeting with sales 1 minute, then product, then marketing, and they're all coming at it from a different point of view. Now, on top of all of that, there's other sales enablement groups, and they're starting to vie for attention and compete for, Kevin's awareness that they also have approaches and methods. And so it's all of the stuff is that we're working on is one thing, but it's the communication and defense of and the clarity around where we're going and where we are right now. And she needs tools that she can just use really quickly to sort of nip it in the bud in the moment as it comes up. And she's got a big meeting with Kevin on Monday where she needs to tell him sort of a progress report. And I think, for me personally, it's sort of like there's a million thoughts running through my mind. We also heard from Scott and some amens from Matt, and basically that, and Matt and Jen, that it's just make slides about the progress, and we, the form of that can come to fruition later. But it has to be blunt, no fluff. What are we doing so it also has to say, what are we fixing? Show what's not working, and then what are we doing to fix it? And then where we are in the fix it process in blunt terms. So there's no specific, when asked, there's no specific vision of what that particularly looks like, but it's just, there's so many pieces and parts. They're having a hard time unifying the whole picture into a very clear, here's exactly what it is, what's being done, where we are in the process, why it's underway, and I guess, whatever else we would say, sort of on a role by role basis, at least a handful of different role perspectives addressed. And that's basically that, which has helped me summarize this, because I can't get there on my own in terms of coming up with how to communicate this. So it's sort of a plea for help in that context. So that was what I heard, Scott. Any questions, Walter?
No, I mean, that was pretty detailed. I took a lot of notes, Dave. I mean, not at the moment, no.
One thing that I would challenge other people on is part of what we're missing in general is the emotive. So Dave, your feedback was devoid of emotion. And I think what we have to recognize is that the people involved in this are being as emotive, or probably more emotive than they are logical. So I'd love to hear feedback from other people of how would you describe for Walter, what's the sense of urgency? How do we capture the tone? It seems like we resist leaning in as a team to the emotive side if it's not good news. But if it's great news, oh, it motivates and we go do a lot of stuff for it. But the challenge is the good stuff is on the other side of tackling the friction. So it's sort of like a chicken and the egg thing. We get the good news by leaning into the frustration, the anxiety, and giving tools that help people communicate and soothe the anxiety. When we highlight anxiety, we produce nothing. When we lead on positive stuff, we produce a lot of shit. How do we flip that? It is my observation of our team. But I'd love to hear feedback from other people. You know, Brian, I'd love you to recap for what you heard with Brian or Walter, because this is Act 2. This is what Act 2 is like. We've been talking about Act 2 for fucking months. It's here, you know, winter has come. We're fighting the fucking Walking Dead now. I'd love you to, you know, engage with Walter and see if we can create some clarity, whether it be understanding or doing clarity.
Hear me? 'Cause I'm dialed in. Can you guys? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it's like hey, we're out on a limb here. Is the feeling, right? Like we bought into the vision. We're going. Not only did we get elevated as CEO, we're out on a limb with all of our peers, and there's those who actively are going to want to crap all over it, and then there's everybody else who's going to want to glob onto it. So, like I use the analogy. There's a like picture somebody drowning in a lake. We have the ability to save them, but pretend there's 19,000 people in a lake. So Jen is swimming out there to help people. And when I was in Boy Scouts, we learned when you're doing a water rescue and people are drowning, you actually have to keep them at arm's length. You can't let them get close to you because they'll glob onto you and drag you straight to the bottom.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the point of that? So what? What are you saying, Brian? I mean, that's
30 to 50 people.
So what?
So there's 30 to 50 people that are going after Jen in the name of either helping her or actively trying to take her out. And it's frustrating. So she's asking for help on the content. Like, how does she handle all that? She doesn't have the slides. People don't have the patience for the talk track. She doesn't feel equipped for every conversation, just most of them. And it's exhausting. So she's tired.
So she also said something about early on that we need to know what the current state is and what the future state's going to be. She called that out. She also said something like a sell sheet and I put down battle card because the battle card is another sales tool, right? So sell sheet, and she said blunt terms, no vision, and I know you were saying what's not working, somebody was, I think Scott, you were telling me to call out what is not working, or maybe she did. I don't remember. My notes are sort of crappy, but yeah, to me that seems like it might create more people trying to drag her down though. But that's just, I don't know enough to say that's just my feeling. It would be like people would get more defensive. Is there some way we take all the, is the objective here to help like synthesize all this big, we have this big picture with all these moving parts in it, to somehow get it onto a single page to sort of succinctly sort of explain what the process is? Like, it's like trying to take all 7 webinars and put it onto one slide. Is that what we're trying to do?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I can relate with, like, let's pretend Jen and Matt were changing a process, a single process, like onboarding new hires. Let's pretend they were changing one little thing like that. It would be the cross-functional, jujitsu and hand-to-hand combat just around a process change, whether or not it was HR, product groups, sales training, everybody's, hey, that's my job, not your job. What are you doing? It's the same thing. But now try to change it for go to customer, go to market strategy when you have hundreds, if not thousands of people hardwired to do a certain thing, and they're all going to push their agenda. So it's an uber macro problem of the world is flat versus the world is round. So what does Jen need for that? Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I've been actually in this situation, defending the work of doing exactly this twice professionally. So I know what it's like. And yeah, there can be some real douchebags that show up and try to basically challenge the obvious. And I think what she's really asking for is something very simple and straightforward that summarizes what we're doing very, very quickly in like a one pager that she can whip out and say, this is why we're doing this. And it is very blunt and to the point and very brief, and it's tailored and obviously empowering.
Yeah, but you guys are acting like this is a one-time thing.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing, over the next year.
Well, I'm just trying to help create material that can address her issue. That's
Let Brian share his thoughts, and to just go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm struggling with the moment in time nature of that. Yeah, sure, we can do that. That tomorrow is going to be another need. So if we took a year-long view and say, look, by the time they're done with us over the next year, they're going to believe the world is round. And then also, Jen's not the CEO of a company. She's like, all of a sudden getting all this visibility, and she's probably technically in the new bucket. Like, she's a new person there. She hasn't worked there forever. So then you're going to have the political angle on that. Old guard, new guard, what's she doing? I brought this up before, and, what's she doing? Sleeping with the guy? Who the hell knows, right? Like, there's a lot of negative energy from people when somebody all of a sudden is an overnight success, and she's not the CEO of the company that can tell people what to do. So how would we, if somebody was working for you, Dave, what would you ask them to produce for you? What would you need to hear?
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of different flavors of it. I mean, one of the thing that I struggle with is landing material that's valuable every day, right? So we create stuff, but we just learned a lot of the stuff we're creating is solutioning too much. So, empathy and message. So in the context of this moment and what we just heard, it sounds like a sense of urgency to get some stuff that they can use immediately. when you say that's a moment in time and so that's wrong, I don't know how to handle that because she needs something now.
I don't
And
think I heard Dave or Brian say it's wrong.
well, I
Heard him
know, but
say
I
that
can have a point of view too, can't I?
you're right. I'm just trying to help.
I mean,
Right
we've
and
talked
wrong
about
is something we're
experience
trying to move
zones,
across. We're
microsites,
having a
putting up.
disagreement. I'm trying to make sure we're understanding each other. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about experience zones and environments and microsites and installing that and having everything centralized and all the things that go into that and understanding the experience. But if I can create something of value, all of us are passionate about doing something valuable to help Jen. We know that, right? We'd all stay up all night, all through the weekend. We'll all be working on this stuff. And obviously we want to produce things that are useful to them in the moment all the time. And having one of the things that's helpful is to just thank Scott for arranging this call, because you can hear meeting the client where they are is hearing it from the client in a recording or in a meeting really helps, because we don't see the interaction she's having with this woman who's CMO. But I think what you're trying to say is somehow capture the intensity of what she's going through in terms of being able to turn around, so she can turn around and defend this initiative quickly and effectively. I'm just trying to get to a place where we can have a shared vision on what these things might look like. So instead of going down the wrong path individually and coming back with stuff that doesn't work, to maybe align together and create stuff that has a high likelihood of working, or at least is down a path that we vetted with Matt over the weekend or something. So it's aligning. And if we can capture that format or vision or structure, or just we're going to put down bullet points of progress, or we divide and conquer, it might help us as a team be more effective quickly. So there's the long term, I get what you're saying, Brian, of the experience and the constant environmental conditions we can put in place to have people feel like there's a place to go and a change agent sort of platform that they can reference. But then there's the hand-to-hand combat, day-to-day stuff. And I just feel like I'm always off on creating something that's perceived as useful in the context of that moment. And so I'll do a bunch of stuff this weekend, and I don't have any idea whether it's going to be helpful or not. And I'm trying to get to a place where at least I'm in the right code.
Yeah. And I can relate. I've been there. Let me use the orb for a second and do a 30-second orb view of what I heard on the call with Jen. I don't think so. If I use the orb, I think I could do better. So I'm going to lead with me. I could do better on the people node, empathizing with what she's doing, and I could provide different types of information than what I've been doing. So people information node. Technology-wise, it's pretty simple. I gave it to Scott, so I'm not so sweating about that. But I agree that there's probably something technology-wise, even if it's a single source of truth. But I think I'm not clear what the process is. So for me, I would say that this is a process issue more than a people information or tech issue. If I flip it to what's going on our team, right? So that's how it might show up in what I heard about Jen. They're not clear what the process is. That's where I'm gonna land on that. And to finish this out, I would say, well, what's happening to produce? I think we all have the best intentions. We're all smart people. We're all on the team for a reason. I don't think it's a people issue. I don't think it's I think it might be an information issue. We don't know what information they need, but we've all been in these positions, so we can make assumptions and probably figure out how to put information out. The technology piece, I think we're tripping over with form factors and portals and stuff. To me, it's like, how do we just get the information out? But again, it goes back to what's the process to get the information out. The process now is don't talk to Scott and give it to Scott. I mean, don't talk to others other than each other and give it to Scott. Does everybody feel like that's working? And is that helping you guys get what you need to get Scott content to give to Jen? There's some things that we could talk through using the orb to get to more root cause. I'm just not sure right now what the answer is on what to actually produce. I think it's more on, to me, this is Act 2. This is the beginning of Act 2. How do we tackle this over the next 3 months? Yes, there's something we need to do for Monday, but the bigger issue for me is
No,
how
we've
do
got
we
a
make
month
this something
left.
sustainable?
Guys, we have a month left.
Okay.
Not the next 3 months. It's a month. We have a month.
So I'm looking
Yeah.
at the SOW too, and what's in here and the stuff to be created that's listed too. So we have the communication and the deliverables or outputs. To tackle.
Yeah. So we need to take the.
I'm telling
need to
you,
figure out how
focusing
to-
on the SOW is I'm going to disengage and just do all the work myself because that'll lead us down a wrong path. I'm telling you that right now. It will not help. All we'll do is create rigid shit and we will miss the mark completely. That's why I say we don't focus on deliverables, we focus on outcomes. We have to learn on what skating to outcomes means and we got to challenge ourselves on it. If we pull out the SOW, we've lost. Game over. We're now just making deliverables. We're not solving problems. The things that we have to do a lot more of is, I heard a lot of solutioning. I didn't hear any curiosity. Who are the stakeholders that she's talking about? Are we trying to make one big deliverable? No. Can we create a variety of different scenarios? We got to think much, 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 much smaller. What's information you want in your role? Your clarity. What do you think we need to do? Your architect, be an architect. What do you think we need to do? What does Detangler think we need to do? He's trying. What does capability think we need to do? We have to always make stuff always and not give up because of whatever reason. We have to keep challenging ourselves because it's not about what we're producing. It's about the end audience of who it's for. That's who it's for. So just make slides like you're talking to somebody instead of having a conversation with it. Challenge yourself to just make slides for it. Learn what we're learning about the value of doing asynchronous conversation. That was hard, but it's valuable. Why? It's forcing us to communicate more. What steps do you think you need to follow? Just break it down. Be easier. If we just get more curious, that'll help. If we put the effort way high on process, why don't we just document the process that we went through? Not anticipate what sort of process that we need to when we know the process that we've got isn't working. Let's be humans. Let's be curious. No one asked me any question about what they think, what's working for me. We're jumping into like, why do you guys think you can make slides for Jen? You're not in the meetings. I'm literally in the meetings.
Right.
How come no one's asking me questions about what we think we need? We're not what's our design point and what are we thinking through? I can't keep asking. To me, the thing, we would know what to build if we would have answered what was the experience in Townsend. We would know what to build if we can say, here's definitively what, and we all agree what exactly change means. We have been through this scenario over and over and over again. We have to come up with a different way to go about doing it. We've all experienced it. You can talk to each other. Are we talking to each other and getting feedback on it? Are we asking me questions? Or are we just saying, let's work on a form factor and let's follow the form factor? this is a solvable problem, gang. Let's be us.
I have a quick question regarding, Dave, you brought this up, and Scott, you just brought it up. Roles. What roles did she identify specific roles that as of like Monday for Kevin or Scott, when you've been talking to Jen, are there specific roles that you're thinking of that we need to focus on specifically first?
I'm going to answer your question directly, and then I'm going to amend your question and answer it how I would have asked it.
Okay.
So the role, the primary role to produce for is Kevin. It has to be AJ aware. In other words, it's got to make AJ look good, and it's got to make Jen look good. Kevin is producing something for the CEO. That would be the answer of roles. Does that answer your question, Walter?
Yes. Thank you.
May I now
Sure.
ask the question how I think would be a more valuable question? We should be talking about situations. What's the situation? We are running into many situations. The reason that we're running into many situations is because they're a cross-functional group. And because they're cross-functional, we're going to run into many derivatives of the same story. So what I get concerned about is focusing on roles means we're going to create lots and lots and lots of disparate messages. Whereas to me, the real situation is it's situations. The reason that they're situations is because they're siloed. So there's a core story that we should know, we can build. And then there are, off of that, radiating out situations. Some of the situations are because we have to make light bulbs go off. Some of the situations we just have to show progress. Some of the situations we have to provide an end state. Some of the situations we have to show examples of what's working. They're all just situations that hang off of the same thing.
Okay.
And that's how we relate to each other, by the way, guys, when we have conversations.
That's an excellent way to look at it.
So if we get situationally aware, and then the next thing is we need to talk about the emotions associated with the situation, because that's also going to inform what we produce. Then we can worry about the impacts. Then we can worry about the people. What I'm highlighting is we have to embrace the emotive environment a lot more. Act 2 is 100% about emotions. It's not form factors. It's that the form factor is going to make us sound robotic and rigid. The things that work is once they start criticizing themselves, I use very strong messaging that say, what are you doing? Why are we talking about that? You know that already. You're a cuvia. Lean into it. Own it. That theme is what creates all the momentum. We've talked about momentum. We have to challenge ourselves on what makes momentum. How do we visualize it? How do we describe it? Walter and I had a back and forth of what the fuck is clarity? You know, we have to challenge these things.
Right.
Not because they're intellectual. It's because a cuvia the words, the English language doesn't help because everybody is so certain of what they know. What we're running into, the way I would describe what we ran into at with Susan, not Susan. Susan's easier. easier to manage. All we need to do is just give, hey, here's some gates that we're going through. That's easy. Somebody could just interview me and make that slide. That would take 30 minutes tops. The challenge that we're running into with Julianne, Walter, it's how I keep bringing up to you, no, we can't use branding. I get you know what branding means.
Right.
We can't do the he said, she said anymore. We
Right.
have to list out, here's what Julianne thinks messaging is. Here's what we think messaging is. Let us show you where we're coming up with something new. Because during the call, what really pissed Jen off, and she had to talk to me afterwards just to vent how pissed off she was. During that call, basically Julianne acted the exact same way that Brian did. Not our Brian, not Detangler, but Brian did. And we all criticize him. He didn't get it. He doesn't get it. But she's got the same attitude. Oh, stakeholder mapping, we do that with ABM.
Mm-hmm.
We need to show that what they mean in ABM by stakeholder mapping is not what we mean. So we have to put more meat on the bone. Just because we say, well, Scott Rose says, who gives a shit? We have to be able to show it concretely on a slide.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not doing that. So to me, that's the gap of where I say, I've told you many times, Walter, I think we have a huge opportunity to redefine what branding means
Right.
by shifting an outcome. Well, these aren't words. This is, how do we help people experience that? How do we make it come to life by doing, not
Mhm.
by understanding?
Right.
We also have to accept the fact that the words that we think are clear have different meaning in different organizational silos.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make concepts work across? And we'll have to figure out how we do that by each situation.
Mm-hmm. This goes back to what you just said, the video you put out yesterday, when you said the experience of doing, the actual action,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. So, and I think that's why we need to make more videos. And some of us don't like to do it, but we don't have an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
There is no spec for solving cross-functional problems like this.
Right.
This is why we have to develop new ideas like among messaging,
Right.
and then like relax a bit to thinking that you know what messaging means. Because what Phil thinks of messaging is going to be different than what you think and then what Dave thinks. And then we're back to arguing about the form factor. It's not about the form factor. It's about whether the idea gets across. And if we don't know what the goal is situationally specific. What's the outcome? The outcome we want is for her meeting with Kevin to be awesome. So what do we want? What's our agenda? Let's give her the slides that show that. Then as we go through those slides, we need to be hyper curious. Which of these ideas will get resistance? Why will they get resistance? Like, why is it that the commercial ratio gets so much pushback? Who does it get? Where does it resonate? Who gives pushback on it? These are knowable things if we are curious. If we just produce the form, if we concentrate just on the format of the material, they're not knowable because we're not focusing on the right things. That's just how I see it. I think you guys should do a lot more asking me questions, frankly. What I noticed is for the Sales Enablement Society, very few people in the society asked me how it happened. Everybody assumed they know. Everybody assumed they knew how the conference happened, but it didn't happen the way people assume that they think it happened. No one, I haven't gotten any questions about how I set up the hang gliding one. Why did I do it? What was the goal? No curiosity questions. Also, like with the change program, why? Why did I set it up that way? What was I trying to accomplish? we're just not being curious enough. And what we're doing when we don't be curious enough, we project our own biases that we all have the answer, and we're not working as a team. I think we need to, if we're having difficulty with being curious, we need to create a template. Maybe for Brian, we need to create a process that we go through to be curious. And then we can score off whether people have been curious enough. Sort of a forced curiosity. Jesus, sounds like the Stalin death camp about, but we've got to do something different because what we're doing isn't working.
So you're saying the curiosity thing is a pathway to revealing the essence of something more specifically from which to create? Is that, I'm curious about curiosity, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, that's funny.
It's true though. If it's, I mean, we're all trying to embrace this new concept of working. We've all had our struggles because it's so different. We have learned a lot along the way about trying to operate, in the speedy system sort of mindset. I think we feel like, at least I do, like I'm producing the wrong stuff. I think you're saying, well, you need to be more curious because that'll help you produce the right stuff. And so, like I was curious about, what Matt might have in his mind for how this message gets communicated internally most effectively. I wanted to see what he had to say. So, is that bad? I think that's being curious. I'm trying to just be more effective, right? I think if there's the process that you laid out about building something, I created a chart from that because I thought it was so good. And I sent it out to everybody. Phil looked at it and said, this is helpful. Now we can shape it. We talked about it yesterday to refine it, but yes, those kinds of things help. The visual nature of things obviously helps too. So I think the muscle memory would send people like Phil and I back to give them a project plan and show them where we are in the project plan. Obviously, we don't want to do that. So it's more about where are we on achieving this changed vision. Now there's just a lot of slides already. And so it's hard to assimilate many, many different things. And then we're going to create more stuff. So I think if I play back to you what I think I'm hearing, it's to try to create things each day in the moment to meet the client where they are based on being more curious about where they are or the situational awareness of what they're facing so that we can be.
Well, there's a lot there. So let me break that down and first concentrate on agreeing. So I believe it's unhealthy to focus on what's wrong. I just fundamentally believe it's unhealthy because that dampens down curiosity. So I'm not going to say produce the wrong things or whatever. What I would say is the video that I finally made in response for Walter. So for everybody's benefit, I got 3 videos, all within an hour of each other. I got Walter's, Phil's, and yours. And they were lots of spreadsheets, lots of detail, lots of depth. And it was hard. It broke my brain because I want to synthesize things, not zoom in and analyze things. So I think understanding differences between synthesis and analysis is something that we can all do a better job of. And Brian is probably the best case study ever on the planet to talk about that conversion process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10
And
years in the making.
yeah, but I think it's when we try too hard on stuff, instead of just jumping in and just building something with I don't know the direction it's going to take, it gets too heavy. So I will tell you this. The reason that I'm saying this is I don't want you to use customer as your design point, because the thing that both you and Phil kept doing is talking about Lily. Lily is not our challenge right now. We don't need to be thinking about Acuvia's customer. We need to be giving some simple things for Acuvia just to get on its own same page. So what we're doing is we're interpreting go to customer and look at all the different variations of what that means. Your role, Dave, is architect. I am your customer. Make me successful. You should be asking me shit tons of questions, not Jen. Jen is my customer. And providing outputs for her to meet all the different variables is different. And this is hard. Lily is not the issue yet. It's like we're skipping past different steps. Each time Jen communicates this, so we had it walled off. So we didn't have this communications problem. But as she's advanced it and radiated out, the expectations have gone up. How have we not created an environment where we're getting that customer feedback? These are things we can be curious about instead of fixating on what deliverable you need to make. Let's embrace these as awesome opportunities to be curious about. We're literally simulating something that you've made an observation before. We're simulating the exact fact of the people close to the customer get closer and closer to the customer, and the people in the back office get further apart. We're literally witnessing that here.
Right. Yeah.
How do we embrace that and flip it around and turn it into insights? From we're our own goddamn laboratory. We're our own mice that we can experiment on each other.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
We have to have fun with that. Let's embrace these challenges along the way. And when we take them as problems, we're going to treat them as problems, and you're going to come up with solutions that aren't going to fit because you're not including me in it. Period. They're not going to fit because you're not including me. Or you could flip it around and say, these are situations. I'm going to be curious. I've made some observations, and here's what I'm seeing is happening. I can guarantee you that'll be incredibly valuable. I'll take slides on that. I'll flip it together. I'll get it to Tim. We'll get it to Jen instantly. But you guys trying to solve problems for me ain't going to fly. It's like you guys are mansplaining on me.
Yeah, no, I think, look, the C versus solution is valuable. You sent that out a few days ago. I think the curiosity comment is interesting. I was operating, the perspectives of each of us are, when I hear you're not going to have context, or you're not going to have clarity, and if you need either one, don't call me, call the other guys. I took that as don't ask Scott questions. Only talk to those guys. So I've been purposely avoiding doing that because I don't think I'm supposed to call you. Now, maybe that's just me being, that's my perceptions being too rigid. So I think I'm learning,
No, so that's perfectly fair, and that's something that I'm going to want to hear from Brian on, because he's gone through this a lot. What I mean is, like, what should I do? And part of what you should do is you should be being curious about, hey, I'm architect. There's so many things that need architecting.
I know, yeah, and we had a good conversation yesterday about some.
Yeah, and like even just like a viewpoint. I don't need anybody to produce anything for this weekend. But that doesn't mean I don't want you to take the stress factor here and try to make things that are observational.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're fine. Jen's having an extra bad day. I've been begging her when she gets like this to actually talk to me about it instead of going off and drinking wine and, you know, calming down and coming back with a different attitude. And I said, look, these things are, I said, look, when we're frustrated, that's when the best stuff comes out. And if you feel like it's like, why wouldn't you do it? It's like, I don't want people to see me this way because they run from it. I said, well, Jen, we got to change that mindset and lean into the intensity, not be intimidated by it. Where does it come from? It comes from passion. It comes from, you know, a feeling of being perfect, but not expecting it to be perfect. She's a human being like everybody else. And if she doesn't have the opportunity or space to be intense, it's this shitty thing. I can relate to that. I get intense. I get frustrated. And what happens when I bring that stuff up? You know, it's never good. It's never good when I come off as intense. So I said, Jen, let's change this somehow. We can't keep working 10 hours on weekends making slides to help communicate this progress. I got a team of people that's supposed to do it. You're going to run into the same problem. By the way, guys, this conflict we're setting up because she's going to run into the same problem. If we can solve it, there's fucking adult money there to do the training for her team.
Yeah.
So everything that we're doing here is an opportunity. We have to skate ahead of them, not behind them, not react. And the way that we can do that is to embrace where we have conflict and not wait for somebody else to have the answer or somebody else to figure out the template. We have to assume it doesn't exist. And we can ask questions. Clarity can ask questions. I never thought of it that way. I could say, how could you not have thought of it that way? That would be a negative thing to do. The positive thing to do is, okay, well, let's get curious about it. And he's like, should I drop everything and, you know, try to learn it the other way? No, lean into what you do know, but be curious, be an investigative reporter, have fun with it. Every one of us is a goddamn guinea pig for you, Walter. Solve the problem for us. Dave,
Right.
We got architecture stuff. The reception of the architecture is probably more important than the architecture itself. All of us are guinea pigs. All of us get overwhelmed by too much architecture with the exception of Phil. There's never enough. There's never enough for Phil. So he's not your guinea pig to go message that to. It's the rest of us.
We're the two that talk the most to each other, probably.
Exactly. You have a feedback loop that reinforces it. And it's not a bad thing. Let's just accept that we're people and it's okay.
Today was really, again, you know, there's these moments of clarity that are very enlightening. And I don't know why they always come on Friday at 4 o'clock. But the thing you said about the situations, and that if we could architect how we navigate the different situations or use cases or whatever you want to call them for where we're going to get challenges and pushbacks and the emotions that those people are dealing with and why, we can come up with a I don't want to, you know, it's similar to the rhythms, only it's for these emotional cases that are going to case where people feel they're threatened or they want and taking that information and sort of trying to get the messaging into a series of slides that would sort of explain what we're doing and explain how we're going to benefit them and go down that path. Oh, I'm sorry, I want to eye you.
Dude, that's brilliant. Situation.
I don't mean to do this. Sorry. I don't know what's going on here. I was playing with the video filters.
But
My God.
There you go.
That was I had nothing. Sorry about that.
I love that, Phil. Situational rhythms.
I do. It is. the situational rhythms because these people are pushing back on Jen because she's a space invader, right? She's a stranger in a strange land and they don't like it. You know?
Well, wait, let's be careful about that. There are many who love it. What she's talking about is exactly the itch people have, they want to scratch.
You said there were situations where they want to know more or they want to know how far along we are. You're right. There are people who are embracing it as well. So there's the whole spectrum of support and emotion she gets for it. But I hadn't looked at it from the perspective of how do we message each of those situations. And
so let me ask you guys some observational questions. How
Yeah.
aligned do you guys think I am with Jen?
Very.
I'd say very, and I'd say that because the why is, well, number one, you got her to,
You're
she's the
liking
client, she bought into the concept, but you speak to her on a daily basis and you all very clearly message to the outcome you're providing each day to the given situation of the individuals you're speaking to within the organization. You're very line based upon that.
Yes.
you're the closest proxy to her that we have.
So if that's fair. So if that's true, wouldn't it make sense to ask a lot of questions of me, how we're doing it, or what would be valuable? Instead of speculating or coming up with scenarios or architectures, et cetera. In other words, instead of trying to understand it, how do we move it into the bucket of do it? And how do we create an environment where it doesn't feel like it's inspection? Because that's the balancing act here is the if you get in your head that that you feel like there's something wrong, then any interaction that you have with me is going to feel negative because you're going to perceive already that I'm going to correct it and make it wrong. And really, I want to work it to take whatever you've got and stick it in. Because I mean, shit, when we made 30 goddamn slides. Oh, and I spent the entire weekend over it and we didn't use a single one of them. Yet we both realized that if we hadn't have done the work, she wouldn't have had the successful meeting.
Right.
One of the things that happened this week, guys, I mean, this is why I'm trying to tell you situations and why we have to be more curious. Ellen, who's the person who runs partnerships, is feeling very anxious because of the Salesforce renegotiation. The Salesforce renegotiation of their contract of what their OCE platform sits on. They bought about 250,000. No one do the math on this, okay? Because it's more complex than this. They bought 250,000 licenses in a 5-year contract for $100 million. They have something like 90,000 unused licenses. This gap is what's causing the optics of why OCE isn't doing well. No one has put together the total customer or contract value of all the everything related that they've driven off of OCE or rolled it up to what the economic value is and how it moves the needle on their stock price. No one's done that in comparison. So basically, she shows up with this spreadsheet of 90,000 light and brings up, this is a huge problem. Why is it a problem? Is it a business problem? Are we going to accept it as a business problem? It's a human problem because she's worried about how she's going to negotiate the deal. So she's escalating this and bringing it up. Tal bought into it. So Phil, you gave a video comment on, well, that's a bad strategy. My feedback to you is, well, we're not paid to make judgment like that. Why? What's behind it? the more curious we are about it, the more we can nip the problem at the bud, at the source. So what Jen and I did is spend a shit ton of time, because our path forward to the adult money is blocked if they spend the entire rest of the year trying to make up for these 60,000 seats or 90,000 seats. I'm gonna pause here. Does that make sense? Does that situation make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so it that comes up in the heat of the moment, and it came up on a call we were having with Jen, Matt, and some other people at 12:30 last Friday. That situation is dead. How did we do it? We first said, what do we need to do? So she was in hyper reactive mode. I said, well, what's the goal? We argued, I have these tactics, I have these things to produce. I said, but why? What's the scenario? What do we want to have happen? So we both created our own thing. She pulled it together. Then we role played the story. And we said, okay, well, how do we give what's her face, the partner person, enough rope to hang herself? She's like, well, we got to tackle her head on. It's like, you can't do that. You don't have the power base to do that. So this is all the stuff that we talk through, all the scenario stuff that we talk through to come up with the right message. And then Kevin bought on it. And we had slides prepared for it, which we shared some of the slides with you guys, but they were done in the moment. We have to keep working on some of those individual slides. And now what that happened was it triggered a whole bunch of things. This whole week, the partner lady has tried to find more champions, and she's painting Jen to be out as the person who doesn't want to do this, and telling her, Jen, I'm going to blame you when we don't do the Salesforce negotiation. All this shit's happening while she's all she wants to do is focus on our project. So these are the scenarios that we run into. If we focus too much on what we need to produce for ourselves, we're not going to produce anything valuable. If we become situationally aware, then we can produce lots of things. And by the way, it makes it way easier to contrast what our value is. And this is the reality. That's one example of the reality that's happening.
I think that's great. I wish I was in the room all the time listening to every conversation, because then you feel like you're situationally aware. Maybe because we feel a little bit too far away from the customer too. Maybe we can do a Q&A daily with you, where we can ask questions that help inform that day's work. Now that could be via email too, so that it's not a burden, but I think it would be really healthy, because then we can be more maybe situationally aware in the moment. At least for me, that would be great, because I just feel like it's like shooting darts and I'm off the board, and I'm trying to get closer in. I've learned there's a bunch of things I'm picking up on that. I guess I'm a slow learner is what I feel like. Stop over engineering, don't solution, explain what it is, the value of what it is you're doing before you do it. Create material that helps illuminate, but understand the situation first before you do, or else we're just going to create stuff that doesn't help. And everybody wants to help.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I want to help. It's like,
First of all, it's obvious, but that's part of the problem. We want to
I'm
help
trying
too
too
much.
hard.
We're putting too much pressure to help, and we're not having the ease of, can we go back to what our principles are? Look at all the pre-work that we've done. We've Miyagi'd, but we're not fucking karateing. We're ignoring all of our training, young grasshopper. We've gone through all this stuff before. The only thing that we haven't done is to challenge ourselves to produce tangible things that describe the experiences that we've been through. This is exactly the issue that Jen's in. what we are talking about is highly experiential because it forces people to look at things differently. And the aha happens through the conversation, but yet we don't have the tools to make it real. This is our problem. So the reason, so people, it would be wonderful. Scott, why do you keep harping on experience? Instead of just rolling your eyes and going, oh, there he goes again. Why? Scott, why was the last exercise we did about the, how exactly underlined does change happen? Why was that the last exercise we did? How come we haven't had an exercise since then? What was the goal behind it? I felt that I need to keep creating simulated experiences that are tight controlled boxes with defined start and stop points and a whole bunch of stuff in between, and to create curiosity where each of you guys can ask more questions to flesh it out. It's knowable. By doing that, I believe we would have been in a much better position because we would have tangible things that we've gone through the experience of actually putting it out on paper. Resisting that because it's ambiguous is why we're in the spot that we're in. There is no deliverable template. There is no saving PowerPoint slide deck. There is no graphic that exists. It's a painstaking, brutal process of making slides that reframe people's brains. There isn't a template out there. There's no Google thing that you can do, Phil, to go find that, you know,
Watching browser right now, Scott, because no, just kidding.
just playing because that, you know, we all want to go find that quick answer, but the answer isn't there.
Well, it's not that we want to find a quick answer. You know, I sometimes feel like such a fish out of water, but I am really trying. I'll get there. So, all right. So this is good. This has been a very good day.
Yeah, Phil, we're all fish out of water. That's what change is. That's why we say this is a prototype stage.
Yeah.
It's because we're a fish out of water. The idea, I don't know what the goddamn answer is yet.
Yeah.
I know that what they're doing is broken, and I know they have no North Star. We fill it along the way. There is no template. There is no game plan. There is an approach. We could illuminate that, give people comfort through that. There are steps we can follow. There are engagement rules of engagement, but when the pressure gets high and we get anxious because we all feel as fish out of water individually, that's how we don't work as a team. None of us know what the answer is. None of us, not a single one. Jen doesn't, we don't.
I think I'd like to say that I can feel like I am struggling, but I can still be part of the team. I just lean on the team when I need to get grounded and pull me back in.
That's fair. I'm talking about other, so I'm not trying to isolate it. I'm trying to identify common situations that we all run into. Yeah. So one scenario is to feel frustration and then have the pucker factor and not produce stuff. I mean, there's a specific situation Brian and I went through ourselves that this happened. The form factor is something that gets in the way of a lot of things.
Yeah, you said something today though that was very good. You said Jen's not a customer. You're our customer. See,
I am. That's right.
Realize that. See, I'm trying to solution things. I'm trying to solve the problems of how do we get the capabilities in front of, when I now realize that we have, the bigger problem is just getting adoption inside of IQVIA. We need to do that through you.
Here is my problem, Phil.
Yeah.
My problem is that when we have the route to value meetings, we had a meeting where Susan presented out what we're working on. I need some sort of reaction to that. That's a service I would like you to provide to me.
Done. I'll take.
I will need to go through the website and put into slides, not spreadsheets, because they won't look at spreadsheets, into slides, categorization of their different versions of OCE and say, here's what you have on your website. Is this right? And then they're going to say, no, it's this. No, it's that. And I just want to use that tool not as a deliverable, as a way to help them see how in the world could anybody know what the fuck OCE is? Because you keep referencing it differently every single time.
They've changed the website twice this week on OCE, by the way.
That's the point. That's a point. That's right. Why do they keep doing that? The more evidence that we show, observational evidence that we show that they're churning, the more power we get. And they're simple things. They're just tedious. The more simple little snapshots that we make, the better. And then the back and forth, if I'm your customer, say, how would we do this? Let's role play out. Boom, boom, boom. Great. That's what I want us to do on the individual calls.
Okay.
What I don't want to have happen is have you guys, well, I don't know how to follow this. I don't know what's going on. I don't, that kind of stuff. The reason I don't want you to answer me those questions is I expect you to figure that out yourselves. Figure out what context that we're in and figure out, and that's how we'll do it is, I guess what my lesson learned is, how do we overcome our bias to deliverables? Or specifically form factors is probably said better. We want to put things into buckets to communicate. Are we challenging ourselves that those are the right buckets?
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I did not anticipate that. So part of the thing that we always have to do is have conversations like this that are healthy and not avoid them, embrace the conflict. And know that if we do that, because of the whole nature of what we're doing, we're a change agent. No one expects us to follow a scripted approach. Why do we expect a scripted approach? Nobody expects us to have the same song sheet. Why do we expect that there's a song sheet out that we don't know? I mean, why are we allowing our expectations to make us feel stupid instead of leaning in and recognize we don't have the answer? We got to figure it out together, but we have to do stuff and we have to try and we have to make them situationally specific. So what I would love is how are we going to, what specific things are we going to change? And how quickly are we going to change them and what are we going to do about it?
Well, I'll go first. We had a good call yesterday. The whole see versus solution thing, I think, has sunk in. I will find out if I can stop solutioning. It's so strong. I'm not sure if I can, but I'm going to try. Not over-engineering the form. Being curious to try to find the insight or reveal the aha. I like the observe and try to develop an aha as an approach. I think I overthink. And over-engineer. So I'm going to try to just be lighter. You gave me some structure around. I think for 45 minutes, get in the creative zone, and if you haven't figured it out, abandon and come back to it later. Those are helpful things. I don't know why it's, it's a very strong tendency. I think the orb does help. It helps to keep things in balance. So I've got pictures up on my wall. I got the orb. Now I'll make a sign that says, be curious. I think asking for I'm going to ask you obviously more questions. I think more interactions with more questions that are more discrete. So you're talking about create discrete things that are tiny and give them to me quickly. And I'm going to try to maybe ask some clarifying questions, or a question that's not clarifying, because I can only go to clarity or clarification is what I would do. So that's a personal thing.
So can I give you one bit of feedback on that?
Yeah.
Let's change the word over engineer. Let's not do that because that's a judgment and we don't have a litmus test for it and it's negative. Why don't we just say, you think deeply about things, make sure the scope of what you're thinking deeply about is tight.
Okay.
Let's let you be you. Let's just put a step in place to make sure that your scope is zoned in correctly.
That's okay. That's great. That makes a lot of sense.
Don't not be you. The issue isn't focus on what you're doing wrong. The issue is that's who you are. Let's just make sure the scope of what you're focusing in on is tight. So get curious about what's the scope that I'm looking at. My observation is you take a scope of a problem, you project of what it could look like in the future, and then you go into apps land. So it's like you go 2 or 3 years ahead, and I'm like, that's cool. I don't want to tell you that but it's not helpful right fucking now. What you're telling me right now is what the world will look like 3 years from now, but the world ain't going to look like 3 years from now unless we win this fight right now. Sort of like Terminator kind of stuff, right? We got to save John Connor so that he can fight the people to send the Terminator back to save him. It's trippy stuff, but that's the way change happens. We got to
win. No, I get it.
Win the micro battles.
That's helpful. Actually, that's another really good thing. All right. So those personal things help me a ton, Scott, because I'm narrowing my scope. Just that alone.
Yeah. But what I'm going to tell all of you, don't change who you are. Let's find a workaround so that you can always be who you are. Because if you're trying to say, don't over-engineer, what are you focusing on? Not over-engineering. You're not focused on making something valuable for Jen and I. So it'll take way too long. And then by the time you actually produce it, it's too late.
Yeah.
Because you're a human being. It's your bias. You like to think deeply about stuff. That's awesome. Think deeply about the orchestration orb and how you communicate it to Kevin tomorrow. Think that way. Not all the architecture technology you can build and how many more apps to do and what investors will think. Don't do that. That's for a different time.
Yeah, I got you. No, it's been a good couple days on evolving my thoughts, my focus.
The other thing that's really helpful is if you're feeling frustrated, just ask yourself, why am I frustrated? And then talk to somebody about it. None of us have the answer. None of us. But letting that fester is where it becomes a problem. Who's going to go next?
I'll go next.
All right.
I think this goes back really, it's interesting because at least I aligned this, and Dave, please chime in here. What Dave was just saying. So your video yesterday, Scott, I'm a deep thinker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is my bias, and I know that. So that kind of holds me up. So focus on just taking action and really taking action to get clarity. You know, because I always thought of clarity from the perspective of just trying to understand, to provide the, as example, the message to give clarity, but take action to get clarity. But this also, in essence, goes back to do small, simple things quickly and be more curious. It's interesting because you talk about being curious. I always thought that was a curious person because I love to ask questions, and I'm not here. So that's something I got to think through. But yeah, that's just the premise. So where I was working towards is what is that? Taking action to get clarity, just thinking through that and working backwards from the orchestration orb as well. And getting away from thinking so deeply about things to understand things so deeply.
Well, Walter, let me give you a lens on that. You coach lacrosse, right?
Yeah.
How much, when you coach lacrosse, do you have them think about all the strategy theories and how the ball works and the origin of the game and any of that crap?
Very little.
Exactly. You already know how to do this. You already know how to put stuff in action. Just imagine that you're trying to get, we're all your lacrosse people. Just imagine you're the lacrosse coach. How the hell are we going to take your ideas and put it in action? Just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I want to do is just what I want to make sure that we have happen is all of the vocabulary, every school, everything that we've ever done, we measure ourselves about what we're not doing. I want you to measure yourself about what you can do and what you already do. I don't care about what you can't do. That's not valuable to me. What's valuable to me is what you can do. And you do it really well. Just know that there's a bias that you have, but frankly, Walter, fuck you. That's bullshit. You're a successful lacrosse coach. How is it any different? Tell me how it's different.
It isn't really.
Exactly. It's not different.
Yeah.
You're making it too big in your head. Break it down like we're lacrosse kids and treat us that way with the stuff. Is it clear for Steve on the Steve who overthinks everything, plays too slow? How would you tell him how to absorb some of the stuff that we're working on? It's the same thing.
Right.
So you already know how to do that. So done.
Yep.
Who's next?
Interesting.
Tim's here, by the way, just so you know, he's been listening to all this because we're in the same room.
Okay. Is he going to talk?
No, because you haven't told me I can talk.
Draw us a picture.
I'll be right back.
So I like the idea of what are the situations. Those are good little they're context containers for me, and they also map the idea of sales objectives, and thinking about the situation from the orb, using the orb. There's a lot to figure out per situation, and I think teaming around the situation or producing to support it is a good idea. So is there a way to, so one of the things that worked well, Scott, we talked about it with OmniTrax, was you calling plays, like on the football field. One of the things is field players and teammates is, what's the offense, what's the defense, but then there's what plays are we running? So we're clearly on offense, but sometimes we have to go on defense. And from a speed of the game perspective, we got 45 seconds to run each play. Are we able to keep up with that speed? So is there a way to practice calling plays and producing against those plays? In other words, what's the situation? How do we unpack it? How do we extract it? What do we produce in support of that situation? And then how do we, operationalize that? Because that, I've got scoping challenges that would help me scope in. And then also, I've seen the power of bite size through the detanglers,
Fuck
which
yeah.
at first were hard, you know.
What
Those
let
were
me ask
hard
you
at
this.
first, but
Yeah, let me ask you this, Brian. How many people asked you, how did you go about creating the detanglers? Has anybody on our team made you with curiosity about how you got here?
no.
Guys, I gotta stress this. Do you guys remember the video Brian made where he was talking about he's the king of back burner? You guys
Yeah.
remember that video?
Mhm.
How hard was that for you to make, Brian?
Oh, it's super hard. You called me right after because you're like, all right, are you okay? Because I know that's got to be hard for you. You're like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get some wine or watch Free Willy.
Always go back to Free Willy.
Yeah. It was super hard.
The point is, now looking back on that, talking to past Brian, what would you tell past Brian? Like, duh? Like, what would you?
Oh, yeah. I would have done it to do it sooner. And then also, you don't have to do it all. You can't do it all.
Nope.
And yeah, you're smart. And in some situations, maybe even in past lives, you've had to do it all. But in this team and in this situation, especially when we're in pilot, there's no way you can do it all, you know?
So why don't tell everybody where you were? I mean, he was practically broke, guys.
Oh yeah, it was rough. Like I was like trying to figure out what we were gonna eat that week. I've drained all my savings and stuff. So
And where are you
I'm
now?
like, yeah, I mean, I see that we got caught up on bills, and now we're good through the end of the year, as long as I get paid. But yeah, and then I've got other opportunities with Avalera for next year as well, cooking around really orchestration of onboarding, because it's a total shit show there. So I'm just showing up as an orchestrator, and I keep inheriting more stuff to do.
Yep.
Now they're trying to figure out how to work me into next year's budget. And I've only been there 2 weeks.
Yep. So that's night and day difference, but it was really, really hard. And then on top of that, getting the daily detanglers going, what a pain in the ass was I to you on those at the beginning?
Yeah. Like, where are they? What are they? I'm like, well, and I'm not sure what they are, how they're going to work. What's the, I guess using our language, what's the form factor? What are you talking about? How do I get these to 10 minutes?
Yeah, and then it was like, that's wrong. I'm doing it wrong, and blah, 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 blah. Like, we had to work through all that shit.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
Don't you guys think, seriously, don't you guys think those are awesome?
Yes.
Right.
How did you do that? You got a teammate that went through all of that, that's producing something every single day. It's amazing. I don't even know how he does the video and the thing. I asked him a ton of questions about, do you have one black shirt that you just sit there and put on when you do it? And he's like, no.
I bought a 10-pack.
Right. And I think if you just get curious about what your other teammates are doing, you're going to learn a shit ton from them. But he did it all resisting most of the way. And that's what all of us are going to do. So I think we have to find ways to get curious. And then also he's like, I'm not really getting feedback or whatever. So
Yeah. I'm like, it's going into the abyss. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. I just hit send. Eric was cheerleading me for a while because I BCC him. But even he stopped cheerleading me on it. I don't even know if people are reading them. They're getting them. They're not bouncing back. So I guess I'll keep going.
what pisses me off about that is I I tell you every single time, like I react to a detangler the second I watch it. I
Oh,
see
right.
it
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day
yeah.
when it comes in. So I'm like, fuck you, I'm watching them.
Yeah, I've had
I'm your customer.
Hey, Brian, just so you know, I've also now have George following you on Vimeo, so he can watch them every day because I find them that valuable, just so you know.
Oh, cool. Who's George?
George is Director of Client Solutions here at Flair.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, what does he think? He likes them?
Oh, yeah, we find them both. We you know, when they come in, I tell them, did you watch it yet? We were talking just about the oh crap, no, I can't now get a brain fart. The one with the fish, the curiosity one. And now that
Yeah.
it's about all the curiosity questions today, I gotta go back and watch that one again because obviously I missed the message in it.
The lunar rover.
But I think
Yeah, but also, I will also say, and I told Walter this, I said, hey, you know, Scott's like, hey, I want you to do a daily detangler. I'm like, what are you talking about? I told Walter, I said, I would have never came up with doing daily detanglers in my entire life. And Walter's like, really? I'm like, yeah, the catalyst is catalyzing, I guess. And he's like, that's funny. Really? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you wouldn't have came up with those? I'm like, nope, never in a million years. I would have came up. I'm just doing what he says. I guess it's going to help. And Walter's like, okay. That was pretty funny. And now they're super valuable, I guess.
Yeah, without a doubt.
oh, we still got to get that. We forgot the audio.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, we do.
We forgot
Yeah,
that.
we do.
The audio.
Doesn't matter. You'll
Oh,
figure
yep.
it out. There's a
We
little.
can
We're
find-
going to FOMO.
Yeah.
FOMO
All right.
now.
But I think that's the point is all of these things are awesome because Brian took risks
Right.
that
Yeah.
to the rest of us don't seem like risks at all. Like, well, of course he would do that. Boy, Brian's just really good at video. I can guarantee you before this, Brian was not good at video. Were you good at video, Brian?
No.
Were you good at were you good
No.
were you good at slides? Or making
Oh,
slides?
hell no, man. Oh, no. Oh, no. Zero. Like, people would laugh at my slides. Yeah.
So you get all those
Yeah.
things in your head, but you just do it. And he did
Yeah.
it, did it. What we can do is figure out. So Brian, because he's gone through that experience, how would we tell other people how to make daily detanglers? How do we describe what the process is? So here's another opportunity of what we can do to practice to come up with form factors.
Yeah.
So we have all of these opportunities available to us. We can be self-contained. We have to lean in and learn how to do it. What can I do? I want feedback from everybody. What can I do? And don't be dicks like and say, oh, you're doing enough. Fuck that. What can I do to help catalyze this? How do I get more insights?
Well, we need to get, Kim, how do we get curious about the situations? Is me
Yeah.
back to that. I'd like to try a Miyagi of a situation, not the Kevin one, unless you think that would be helpful, but that's time bound. But how do we get one and try it and try to produce something?
Well, I think we got a whole boatload in this very meeting. Scott went through it and said there was, he rattled off 6 situational observations that has occurred that of the kind of pushback Jen's been getting or the kind of support Jen's been getting. And we need to better come up with a way to explain the current state and what the future state is for those situations. We don't have to make things up. We've got actual concrete work to get done, with Kevin being the first one for Monday, and Scott, being more curious that for us, understanding what's going on inside, having a synopsis on a daily basis would be very helpful to let us know what kind of feedback you need from us in the way of observations and things to make slides for, I've been barking up the wrong tree this week, but I think it's been very helpful today to understand that we have to provide you the slides so that you can help Jen. And to do that, we have to understand the situation. So, and it's not about what we're delivering. It's about helping their organization understand the change and experience that they're going to have to go through. And those, like I said, those situations. And I as soon as this video comes out, I'm going right back to that point and listening to that point again. I think that resonated very high with me.
So let me, what I can do, part of the difficulty that I'm experiencing is the workload to create just what we're doing and what's happening is eating away or basically eliminated my time to give feedback back to you guys, and then also to move forward on what we're doing. So it's like I've reached this stasis of I'm having the same conversations over and over and over again. It would be valuable. What's valuable is for people to pick up slides of things that they've heard over and over and over again and turn them into slides. Like basic things like that. But what I'm hearing from you that I could do is have a series of videos, whether they're daily or not daily. I don't want to commit to that, but at least 2 times a week. One is a catalyst conundrum. I want to have the so I'll present
Oh, nice. Yeah.
a business challenge and then just leave it there and then ask people to engage on it. But on those, you respond back to everybody.
Okay.
So we get that. And they'll be all related to the rule will be, they'll be like riddles. All of them will be 100% related to what we have to do that week, but they won't be directly obvious. So it's going to force you to be curious. The second one will be situation scenarios. I was going to say just the situation and have Mike the situation on there, but that's that won't work. But situational scenarios, and I'll describe, events that are happening. The challenge that we're going to run into is because it's the speed at which things move. We haven't solved for that problem yet. So for whatever
Yeah,
reason,
I think on the situation ones, my hypothesis would be that we would run into repeatable patterns if we did them enough.
That's right.
So it might not be immediate, but eventually we'll get in front of it because you'll have it for the next time because it's going to be a repeatable pattern.
that's possible. That's possible. Yeah. Yeah, but I'll do that. I'll do, at least twice a week on situations. And at least twice a week on a conundrum. You guys some programming.
All right, cool.
Other ideas?
And then
That'll be a great start.
Yeah.
What else? What I can do? Something you guys can do to help me help you. I need questions of what you want from all of it. Like, what is it that you don't know that now that you think you should know? How do I get it to you? I literally have no idea how to get you guys the information without being overly burdened, because that's the other constraint is by us not producing lots of slides that are that to talk about what Jen's talking about. I'm doing them, all of them in all of our categories. So that gives me I have to trade off what format do I share the information, and then I'm also worried about the tone, balancing sense of urgency. How do we highlight, the empathy, the mood of our clients. I think somehow we have to confront that more. I don't know the answer to that, so I'm looking
Yeah.
for feedback there. But in Act 2, I don't think anybody on this call wants to hear emotive stuff. We're not comfortable with it. But I'm telling you flat out, in Act 2, everybody's emotional. It's just a fucking fact. So how do we deal with that? Because it's easy to be cerebral, and that's, you know, kind of the value on the outside, but people aren't going to relate with us if we're not
So
we're not empathetic.
So I'm wondering if, thinking back to process on the node, I wonder, like if we could test something where maybe there's a twice a week standing meeting, or once a week even, where we're actually coming together to work on stuff together. And you don't have to show up to that, Scott, but like we're actually quote unquote teaming to work on stuff in a standing meeting and helping each other out in a group setting, as opposed to having to rely on the one-off asynchronous stuff. And then you would know that meeting's happening, and you could pop in on any of them to inject something, like situationally, emotively, or whatever. If there's something happening that day or whatever, and you want to relay something to the team, you would have that. So I'm just wondering if there's something like that, process change wise, that we can call differently in Act 2. Because I don't know if our Act 1 stance is quote unquote working, but I can't prove that it's not, but something tells me it would be helpful to have more of a group collaboration on some things, if only to get feedback on initial designs or initial templates or anything before showing you. So I'm just throwing that out there. That do we need to reconfigure ourselves when we go to Act 2 or not?
Okay, what do you guys think? Reframe it in terms of a proposal, Brian. So you had a lot of extra information in there. So just state it as a proposal.
My proposal would be once or twice a week for the team to have a standing meeting to bring. So if we're reacting to a situation, Walter could bring a clarity checklist, or architect could bring a architecture for the group to provide feedback and live out our principles in a group setting, and get the feedback. Ideally, everybody could bring something and get the feedback. I could run that meeting, and then you would be optional, Scott, but you'd have it on your calendar, and you could pop in and hijack it anytime you wanted to for emotive reasons. So we could be a pressure release valve for a catalyst. If you're like, dang it, this happened last night and I was up till 1 a.m. Oh, they've got their standing meeting, I'm coming in. And you could take it over and inject emotion in a structured way that we could react to. So it's more of a structured production view as opposed to the sleeper cell Al-Qaeda view. So my proposal would be to structure up the once or twice a week meeting into a standing meeting for production purposes to produce small bite-sized things and accelerate
I
that.
think any group interaction is good because it helps, I think.
I like groups, so I like to collaborate.
Yeah, I think it's really valuable. Listen, we're telling our clients not to live in silos, and sometimes I'm feeling a little bit like I'm in my own silo.
I really like the team.
The only caveat I would be is that Scott is our customer, so we're doing it for him.
Right.
You know, we're teaming to make Scott successful. That's the goal of it.
I think it's a good idea. It's not going to hurt.
Okay. then do it. Just let Brian set it up. Let me know, and we'll work out something. I will tell you this. What I think is missing is we're not having enough argument. It's the what I'm learning is when the shit hits the fan and when people are upset, they say what they really think, and then you can solve it. Also, what helps is the point counterpoint. Like if we could take positions or outputs, let's take the capability, the inventory of capabilities, for example, and have two people argue that it's the best thing since sliced bread and two people argue it's the worst thing since sliced bread. What happens is you get way better answers if we're all
Okay, so no group think, and use them to, create productive friction with the goal of that person capability taking it away and doing the work outside the meeting. But we've created an experience that hopefully accelerates him.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
You got to anticipate that in an environment where people are agitated, upset, and emotional, there's going to be conflict. So if we're not simulating conflict, we're not simulating reality. We don't need to be dicks about it. We could be ordered about it. But we need the conflict. Ideas need to be agitated. We need to have a process step that people go through that, your idea is probably going to get whittled down, right? If I'm introducing 10 slides, hopefully 2 slides will come out on the back end. Mm-hmm. And that's healthy and valuable, not bad. Doesn't mean you made 8 unvaluable slides. It means it took the 10 to get to 2 that we can use everywhere.
Right.
Something like that, like a tournament of it. And we just need to create that agitation of ideas because Susan's great. Julianne showed up with a whole bunch of detailed slides that just are not going to resonate with sales. They're just not. It's just they're dead on arrival.
Why?
Because
I'm just curious what they were.
Oh, they were branding, like this is what we're working on. They went off. They didn't use customers. They didn't use salespeople as examples.
Right.
Shop it out on anybody outside of their group, and now they're hyper defensive instead of actually leaning in and getting feedback. So people are just writing them off.
Right.
That's the worst thing you could do.
I'll be right back.
That's where we have to find ways of working on that. So my worry about a group meeting is groupthink.
Sorry about that.
If we're going to have some creative conflict designed in, I'm way all for it.
That's fair. We could do point counterpoint by design.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could use Zoom breakouts and one group go and they come back and we can record that for the person who's going through the work, right? So that person gets a recording of the debrief of that and it helps them with their output. So the goal is not to produce an output in that meeting, it's to accelerate because we've modeled it, that conflict.
Can we
if
just
somebody's stuck on something, they can ask for help. Sorry.
Can we just argue in the meeting itself with the point counterpoint on a thing?
Yeah.
We just assign like,
you're
on counterpoint, Phil, and Clarity, you're on, you're defender versus attacker.
Right.
So it's like a potluck dinner with built-in debate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Get clarity at the end.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right.
So we just needed to find a time when we're going to do these.
Yeah,
It'd be
Brown,
great if we could do it like, consistent date. I know it's difficult, but
Yeah, like a standing
space
meeting.
time, because I'm feeling bad, I gotta say, because I missed some meetings this week, but I wasn't aware that we were gonna have meetings. So I already had other scheduled meetings, and I'm a big proponent of always making meetings. So
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a day that works better for you guys? Because Scott and the cadence of Scott land Wednesdays are busy. So
I like
Scott,
to
you're too
at
you're
the end so that we can, I don't know, anything
yeah.
on to start the week.
Yeah. So
And,
I was thinking like Thursday or Friday.
yeah,
I think that's helpful. Yeah.
So Scott has the meetings on Wednesday, and he can, if he wants to, he can show up on Thursday or do a scenario or whatever. We'll have maybe an input from Wednesday because we've been on the meetings too. There's a lot of inputs that we would already have.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I think Phil, you guys are, because of the time zone, you're pretty busy. So maybe Thursday afternoons would
Yeah,
work.
I would say between 1 and 3 on Thursday is the best for me. Central.
So Central. Yeah. Okay. So maybe like Thursdays at 2. Does anybody have a standing meeting? So 2 Eastern, 1 Central. Does anybody have an issue with that?
normally when I do have a meeting that I gotta go to next Thursday at 2 p.m. But
But after that, it would shake out.
after
You
that,
could
I'm
sync
fine.
up.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if I just know a standing date and time, I'll mark it ahead of schedule.
Yeah. And Scott gets to determine if it's working or not. So he can kill it if it's not productive for him.
That's
Right? I mean, he's paying us to be productive. So if this is like if it's a group thing or it ain't working for him on outputs, then he can say that's not working. Right? You guys agree with that? Or am I being a dick?
no, that's good.
I just want it to be
I'm fine with that.
productive.
Well, that's it. That's just,
Okay.
and anyone, we can challenge the meetings, not also internal to the meeting. We can measure ourselves as well, right? And we can have a discussion about it then.
Yeah. Okay.
But I see that as a valuable time to have a conversation and work through, understand the conflict of that situation. I like that. It's fine.
awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts of the meeting, where we were before, what your thoughts of what Jen and Matt said, and then where you think we are now.
I absolutely have to leave at 5, so I have to get going. All right. So can I go first then?
Yeah, first and hang up then.
Sure. So,
Make it a mic drop moment.
okay, here's well, as best I could. I think so. Jen is just clearly articulated today that she feels she's in a bad spot because she can't keep up with all the different ways she's being pulled to explain it. And what you said, Scott, about situational awareness really resonated in the fact that we haven't given her the tools to be successful in those conversations. We need to be able to look at each of those situations and understand what the people pushing against her are trying to understand or push back against or need support with, so that we can build the tools she needs to sort of get there. And the only way we can do that is one slide at a time. And what we found out today, that what we're hoping that is the from what I heard also, is that those situations that we start to define will help us create a library that we can build derivative work off of in the future, help us with other people and other clients like at OmniTrax and Mimecast and wherever else we wind up going. So that's I thought today was really great.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Ciao, Phil.
See you, Phil. I gotta have to. I'll go next.
I'm not recording out so I can listen to the results for everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's still recording.
It's well, let's see. There's a lot of personal how do I get better? I think advice and guidance that has occurred in the last 2 days, which I'm thrilled about. In terms of Jen and where she's at, it's it's good to hear her voice and understand where she's at and hear the frustration. This whole C versus solution thing is a significant sort of change in perception for me, amongst other things. So where I am is I think I have better feel for what to do. I think the whole team exchange was great to talk all this through as a team together to evolve. I think the team's got a lot of ability, and I feel like we're like the worst, like we suck at hang gliding right now, but we've done it before and we can get better at it. And we're learning what it's like to be in, I've never been through I've been through it personally, but I've never been part of an engagement where you go into stage 2, disillusionment slope, so you can feel it. So I think there's it's a big moment to shift gears and make sure we're helping her communicate value and purpose there. And I will produce things that you probably, some of the ideas that we talked about, Scott, will help me produce better things. So that's where I am.
Awesome.
Cool.
Who's next?
Yeah. So at first I was like, uh-oh, this is a come to Jesus meeting. But as I was going through it, Jen and Matt, you can tell they're asking for help, and it's because they know that we can do it. It's not like they're ripping us a new one like we're idiots. It's more like, holy shit, we're out here. We need some more help, guys. And it's getting frustrating because we are competitive and we don't want to lose these battles. Help, and then help, damn it. So that's a call to action more than an ass whooping. So that was good. and then, I do know we can do it. And then also I know going through prototype and also the work that we're doing, it's reaffirming that we are doing something different and unique and new. And there aren't any answers. We just have to figure out how to work to come up with them. And then we know we can produce slides. It's just we're not producing the right ones right now. So it's not like, as shitty as I can make shitty slides, but I'd rather make shitty slides that are useful. So how do I do that, right? And then so there's a way to do that now. At the end of the meeting, I think we figured out maybe some tweaks to our approach or audibles, and then also we're zeroing in on a couple of things that are anchor points for me that I can anchor to, which is good.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, first, I'm really looking forward to listening to Scott. You said you recorded it, right?
Yep.
So I've got to listen to that meeting to really drill down further. And I think the big thing here goes back to, and everyone said this, situational awareness.
Yeah.
It's, this is funny because I've kind of pride myself on situational awareness, trying to understand things. And this has kind of gotten lost in the flow to me. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I'm more than anything, I don't know if I'm anxious, I'm confused. Why?
What do you mean tell me more about that? What do you mean?
So I'm confused. Why am I not looking at situational awareness more so, or asking more questions to understand what the situational awareness is? Because I usually pride myself, that's what I do. That's how I figure things out. and I haven't been doing it as much. I don't know why, and that just that resonates with me, and not necessarily in a good way, but
Well, I think the challenge, Walter, is if you're looking to, if your bias is clarity through understanding, look at the format that you put together for your clarity it's pretty structured.
Mhm.
And if you're seeking to understand first, that's what clarity means to you, rather than do, of course you're going to have a structured way of how you think that through. So maybe if you just lighten it up and say, maybe I'm trying to understand too much, maybe I just need to do, I bet you $50 you're going to find yourself more situational.
Mhm.
There, think about like the whole kickoff of the sales enablement conference. And the call Britton showed up to. Juliana was on it, we were on it, and he had that deck, and he wanted us to pitch that deck. Remember that? And we're like, how the fuck can we do this? How's going to build this shit? And we just started role playing on it, and then you and I pitched it to
Clear slide.
you, me, and Britton pitched it to was it ClearSlide the next day,
Carolyn.
and
Yeah.
we talked zero about any of his packages,
Right.
and he was confused of why it went so well.
Right.
The reason that this is where we're different, right? You're thinking like Britton used to think when you think about, I need to understand it, and it becomes paralyzing. If you go into it thinking, shit, how the hell are we going to do this? Then you're going to show up like you did where we could laugh about Britton's specific structured things and how pissed he was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
I think part of it is just how you're framing it in your head.
Mhm.
You've already done it before. Fuck. Think about the whole experience, about what the goddamn experience, not the experience room, the coverage desk is. There literally is nothing of what the coverage desk is. So how the fuck are you going to overthink that when you just accept that there isn't anything here?
Mhm.
So I
Right.
think that's something maybe you can challenge yourself more to communicate out to other people what you did in those situations.
Mhm.
Because that'll help bring back those muscles. I know you have them because we fucking did them together.
Right. Yeah.
So I just invite you to please not be, I can't believe I'm not doing this, to I'm trying too hard to understand.
Yeah. Yep.
Just,
I am trying too hard to understand. I mean,
yeah, well, you do more.
it's tiresome.
Well, stop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Brian, tell him why I said stop it.
Yeah, I will.
No, just tell him what it is.
I'll send you a video of Bob Newhart on Saturday Night Live. He's a shrink.
All right.
It's
and
hysterical.
It's just, yeah.
Tell him, Brian.
So,
it's your thing.
so it's, he's like, okay, look, this lady comes in and, he's like, okay, it's $10 for 2 minutes and everything goes 2 minutes, and she's like,
Mhm.
what? Okay. He's like, I only take cash. And then she's like, okay. So anyway, she goes through this whole thing about her, problem. And he's like, okay, I have my advice for you. And she's like, okay. And she leans in and he goes, so stop it, stop doing that. And I won't tell you everything, but it's like all of her fears and all of her childhood memories, every answer is stop it. Stop thinking about that. Just stop it.
Don't do that. Stop that.
Don't do that. Stop it.
That's his parents.
No, he's the shrink. That's his advice.
He's the
That's
shrink.
what you're paying for.
And that's what she's
Yeah, but
paying
I'm
the money
saying-
to have somebody say, stop it.
Just stop
Yeah.
it. It's
Just
hysterical.
stop it.
That's at the end of the day. That's what you got to just stop that. Stop this thing.
So that's,
More of this thing.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So that's Scott and I's joke because he'll say, "Stop it," because that's exactly how he sounds at this lady, Bob Newhart. Stop it.
Just stop it. Just don't do that. It's hysterical.
Stop it.
Yeah, so Brian found that, and I was like, oh my God, that's hysterical. I'm going to use that so often.
I'll send it
Yeah,
out.
too much. Yeah, I want to see that.
Cool. All right, gang.
All right.
Big opportunities to model this out. Just this alone, how would we document what we did? How would we turn this meeting into something tangible? Because Jen's going to have the same issue with her team.
Mm-hmm.
How in the hell are those people going to act? How is she going to organize to be successful? If we can't show what it looks like, then how confident is she going to be to hire us to build it for her?
Right. Yeah.
Is that like, this is simple. We just got to do it. How would we do it? And then follow the page from our detangler. They're going to be sloppy at first. Who gives a shit? You just have to do it every day. Because that's what you'd tell your lacrosse players, right, Walter?
Oh yeah.
Gotta
Most
practice
definitely.
every day.
That's
We're-
it.
We're not doing it. We're in our heads. We're not doing shit.
Right.
And let's make that fun. Let's
Yep.
make the doing shit fun. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Spending so much time. I appreciate it. It's a huge, huge, huge deal that Jen did this for us. Please use that as a sign of strength, not weakness, of us. Nobody likes to be the bad guy. So we had to rehearse a little bit. No, don't say that. Don't apologize for this. Stop it. Nope. Just say it. Just say it. It's okay. So it's a big deal for her too. It's as big of a deal, Brian, as you making that first video.
Yeah.
So another thing that I think we need to be aware of is because all this stuff is new, everybody doing something new or actually doing something rather than thinking about something, it as simple as it might seem to us, it might be a big deal for them.
Oh, it's going to be a huge deal.
Right.
Yeah. So
And we've talked about this
we
all the
might
time.
not notice. So we got to be, Brian, I'm going to put this on Detangler. You have to help create that safe place. And you, of all people, should be empathetic for it because you went all in for the first fucking time I've ever seen you do it with that video of admitting you're the king of Backburner. And look how different everything is after that.
Yeah.
So how do you help reinforce that idea? Help me do that.
Yeah. That's right. Well, we can try that in the meeting too. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool beans, guys. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Yep. Everyone, a good weekend. Bye now.
All right, bye.